Hospitals, places of healing, hope, and sometimes, things far more sinister. They stand as beacons of science and compassion, where skilled hands mend the broken and weary souls find solace. Yet, beneath the sterile lights and the steady hum of life support machines, there lies another reality, a hidden world where the veil between our world and the next wears thin. Tonight, we venture into the heart of these medical marvels to explore 3 chilling encounters within their sterile walls. Dim the lights, put on your headphones, and don't look behind you. Our first unsettling tale takes us to the quiet countryside, to an aging rural hospital steeped in years of service and whispers of the unexplained. It comes from Sarah, a night shift nurse whose dedication to her patients led her to cross paths with the unsettling. Sarah confided in me about room 209, a room that seemed to hold a chill that seeped beyond the walls, a room avoided by staff who spoke of it in hushed tones. Patients, often on the edge of reason in their weakened states, would whisper of a tall, dark figure that stood watch in the corner of the room, a silent sentinel in the dead of night. One evening, as Sarah made her rounds, she noticed the door to room 209 standing wide open. A peculiar sight, as the room had been vacant for days, untouched and shrouded in an unsettling stillness. Driven by a nurse's instinct and perhaps a touch of morbid curiosity, Sarah stepped inside. The air, usually stale in an empty room, hit her with an unnatural chill, sending a shiver down her spine. The hairs on her neck prickled with a sense of being watched, a feeling that intensified with each step she took. As she reached the bed, her hand moving to adjust the undisturbed sheets as if expecting a phantom patient, a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye caught her attention. She turned, her breath catching in her throat, and for a fleeting, heart-stopping moment she saw him. A tall, featureless shadow, devoid of detail yet undeniably present, stood in the very corner where countless patients had reported seeing it. It didn't move, didn't lunge, but simply stood there, watching her with an unnerving stillness that sent a wave of primal fear coursing through her. Sarah, her training momentarily forgotten in the face of the unexplainable, did what anyone would do in the grip of such terror. She ran. She ran as if all the horrors of the world were at her heels, her heart pounding against her ribs like a frantic bird in a cage. Security footage from that night showed her sprinting down the deserted hallway, her face a mask of sheer terror, but there was no sign of what had driven her to such a state. Room 209, once a place of healing, now stood as a silent testament to the unseen. It remained empty, untouched, avoided by staff who couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered within its walls. A chill remained, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that spoke of an unseen presence, a shadow that refused to be ignored. Our next encounter transports us to the bustling heart of a sprawling city, to a large hospital where the constant thrum of activity masked an unsettling truth lurking within its abandoned wing. Marcus, a seasoned security guard who patrolled the hospital's corridors with an air of quiet authority, found himself face to face with the unexplainable during one of his solitary night shifts. The call came in, crackling through his radio, a jarring interruption to the otherwise quiet night. It was one of the nurses, her voice tight with a fear that transcended the usual anxieties of the job. She spoke of a patient, a new admission, who had somehow wandered into the abandoned wing, a section of the hospital that had been sealed off for decades. This wing, once home to the hospital's psychiatric ward, now stood as a desolate testament to a bygone era. Its doors were locked, its rooms stripped bare, its very air thick with an unsettling stillness that spoke of forgotten stories and lingering presences. Marcus, his curiosity piqued and a sense of duty overriding any apprehension, made his way to the abandoned wing. The door creaked open, as if reluctant to reveal the secrets held within. The air inside was heavy with the smell of dampness and decay, a musty odor that spoke of years of neglect. The flickering fluorescent lights cast long, dancing shadows on the walls, creating an unsettling illusion of movement in the stillness. And then, down the length of the corridor, he saw her. A lone figure, draped in a hospital gown, stood facing the far wall. Her posture was rigid, unnaturally still, as if frozen in time. Marcus called out, his voice echoing in the silence, but the figure remained unmoved. He cautiously made his way down the corridor, his hand hovering near his baton, his senses on high alert. As he drew closer, the figure slowly turned, and a chill ran down Marcus's spine that had nothing to do with the cold, stagnant air. The woman, if she could be called that, was smiling, but it was a smile devoid of warmth, a grotesque stretching of lips that revealed too many teeth, too sharp, too long. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, seemed to bore into him, filled with an unnerving intensity that sent a wave of primal fear washing over him. Marcus, his years of experience rendered useless in the face of such an unnatural sight, did the only thing that instinct allowed. He turned and ran. He didn't look back, didn't dare to see if the creature was following. but he could feel its presence bearing down on him, a cold, unseen dread that clung to him like a shroud. He burst through the door, slamming it shut behind him, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. The next day, after a night of fitful sleep, haunted by the image of the smiling woman, Marcus checked the hospital records. There was no record of any new admissions, no explanation for the figure he had seen. The abandoned wing remained sealed, a place of whispers and unsettling stories. But sometimes, in the dead of night, when the hospital was at its quietest, security cameras would pick up a fleeting glimpse of a figure standing at the locked door, waiting, watching. Chapter 3. The Last Code Blue. Our final tale leads us deep into the heart of the hospital, where life and death walk hand in hand, where the tireless efforts of medical professionals often mean the difference between a miracle and a tragedy. This story comes from Evelyn, a doctor whose dedication to her patients was tested by an encounter that defied rational explanation. It was a night like any other, the steady rhythm of the hospital punctuated by the soft beeping of machines and the hushed voices of staff. Evelyn, her pager clipped to her hip, was catching a rare moment of respite when the insistent buzzing shattered the relative calm. Code Blue, the pager flashed, the urgency of the message sending a jolt of adrenaline through her. A patient was crashing, their life hanging by a thread. Evelyn and her team, their training kicking in, rushed through the corridors, their footsteps echoing in the sterile hallways. They reached the designated room, their hands already reaching for instruments, their minds racing through possible scenarios. But as they burst through the door, a wave of confusion washed over them. The bed in the center of the room, the one that should have held their patient, was empty. Confused, Evelyn double-checked the room number, her mind struggling to reconcile the urgency of the code blue with the empty bed before her. She contacted the nurses' station, her voice tight with a mixture of confusion and growing unease. The response sent a chill down her spine. The patient, a Mr. Grayson, had passed away 2 days prior. Evelyn, a woman of science and logic, tried to rationalize the situation. A technical glitch, a miscommunication, anything but the impossible. But as she turned to leave, her gaze fell upon the call light above the empty bed. It blinked once, then twice, a silent, insistent summons from a source that shouldn't exist. And then she saw him. In the darkened corner of the room, shrouded in shadows, stood a figure. Pale, gaunt, his eyes burning with an eerie intensity, Mr. Grayson stood there, his gaze fixed on Evelyn. His lips moved, forming a single word, barely audible above the hum of the machines. Stay. The lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness, the sudden absence of light amplifying the fear that clawed at the edges of Evelyn's composure. When the lights flickered back on, Mr. Grayson was gone, vanished, as if he were nothing more than a figment of a nightmare. Evelyn would later discover that she wasn't alone. Every year, on the anniversary of Mr. Grayson's death, the code blue alert would sound, summoning unsuspecting staff to an empty room, a chilling reminder of a life lost and a presence that refused to depart. And those who answered the call, who looked into the shadows and saw the lingering echo of Mr. Grayson, would find themselves forever changed, haunted by the encounter and the chilling message whispered from beyond the veil. Hospitals, those bastions of hope and healing, sometimes become inadvertent vessels for the unexplained. They are places where life's fragility is most apparent, where the veil between our world and the next can feel perilously thin. As we've explored tonight, some lives, it seems, refuse to leave, their presence lingering long after they've drawn their final breath. These stories, whispered among hospital staff, serve as chilling reminders that some places hold on to the past with an unsettling tenacity. So, the next time you find yourself in the sterile silence of a hospital corridor, remember the tales we've shared. Hospitals save lives, but some lives refuse to leave. Sleep well tonight, if you can. Subscribe for more chilling tales, and remember, some places never truly heal.